Hey there, friends, and welcome back to season 2 of the Define Success podcast. I'm your host, Bailey Guy. Join us as we empower you to turn your can'ts into cans and your aspirations into achievements. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Define Success. I'm so excited about our guest today. This is Dianne Wilson. She is very in alignment with the brand and mission of this podcast. So if you've been a fan of Define Success, I definitely feel like you'll be a fan of Dianne. So let me just introduce her real quick. Dianne Wilson is the founder and face of Dianne Wilson Co., a boutique consultancy that helps faith-driven women turn their stories into movements and brands that impact generations. A former pageant title holder turned legacy builder, Dianne brings a grounded perspective to conversations about identity, visibility, and calling. Her journey began on the competition stage, but it was a moment of unexpected disillusionment when she was told that she was officially a has-been just minutes after crowning her successor that redefined her purpose. What began as a pursuit of success became a mission to help women root their brand in who they are becoming and not just what they're doing. Dianne is here to speak to the woman at a turning point, the one who's outgrown hustle and is ready to steward her voice, mission, and value with intention to create a brand that doesn't just expire when the crown comes off. So everyone, welcome Dianne.
I am just so ready for this conversation, Bailey, because first and foremost, can I just say how powerful the title of your podcast is? Define Success gives people permission to step into who they're meant to be.
Mhm.
And today I can't wait to explore how branding isn't just about logos or what you look like. It is about owning your unique story and stepping into the legacy that you're meant to build. Because I know that this episode is going to give your audience the insights that they need to confidently define success on their own terms.
Yeah, I love that completely. And I think one of the things about define success is that it does leave it open that success is whatever you define it as. And so success for one person isn't going to be the same as success for the next person. And I think that that's a really cool thing about it is there's not one definition for success. It's really how you define it for yourself. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so going off of that, what do you feel like is sort of one of the biggest misconceptions that people, especially women who compete in pageants or in the pageant industry, have about building a brand that really lasts and that makes an impact?
Oh, okay. So it goes back to what you said about my story, that for many women in pageants, they define their brand as what they do rather than who they're becoming in the process. Because in pageants, and I think that it has its pros and its cons, right? Like we do things based off of criteria in preparation for the competition. So what that immediately does is it puts us in the mind of, okay, I need to do this, this, and this, and this to be able to get a certain score, or I need to do this, this, and this to be likable. But in the process of doing all of these things, trying to be more productive, it's really easy to lose yourself in all of that because, as you said earlier, there is not one definition for success, even though you have in pageants criteria for what determines your success in the industry. In life, that's not how it works. And
Hmm.
that was something that was a really difficult transition, I would say, for myself when I went from being a title holder to being an entrepreneur. Because there are so many days as an entrepreneur where nobody is clapping for me. And I wish that there was a scorecard or something that let me know, oh, I'm doing the right thing. But what keeps me going is knowing who I am first and foremost and stepping into the woman that I'm becoming with everything that I do and owning that as being part of my purpose in this life. And I believe that God gives everybody a purpose that they are meant to live out, regardless of what your life looks like. There's a purpose for you, and God has something great for you in store.
Hmm. And that can lead to another question about how so many people do feel like that purpose is dependent on a title or some sort of an accomplishment, something a goal that they have. And so, what would be your advice for women who are placing their identity in something like that, something that really honestly isn't even in their control, and how they can avoid that trap and really seek their identity in God alone?
Absolutely. So I love Hebrews 11:1 that talks about faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen, because it helps us to see how in life, not only in our faith and how we live our life for Christ, but in everything that we do, that belief is evidence of our faith. And so the way that women overcome this feeling of like, oh, how do I, find my purpose outside of titles, is they believe that who they are becoming, envisioning as the woman they're becoming, is actually who they are. and when you don't believe that, people can sell you all kinds of things about yourself that's just not true. In my story, when you read it, there were moments in my pageant career where people said things to me that maybe in their mind was well-meaning. Maybe what they were just trying to do is help me to see that, like, the next woman coming in, this is her time, right? But being told I was a has-been, that really shifted things for me, because it made me realize how cyclical the industry is. It made me realize that my worth can't be tied to whether or not I have a title, because there are people who they really are looking at it as the next girl. I'm waiting for the next it girl to show up, right? Like your year has passed. In fact, I believe Demi Lee Tebow wrote a book called A Crown That Lasts about this very thing, and her experience when she went to Miss Universe and how it felt really empty at the end of her experience after she won, because as everybody was ready to celebrate her successor, she was left with no phone calls. Nobody really checked on her to see, how she was doing. She went, on her flight back home feeling really lost about what the next step is. And that's why I love about what I do, is that I help women to get clear on what that next step looks like for them.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point that a lot of people in the pageant industry, I don't think have fully realized or thought about. But when you win a title, you really are like, you're the girl, like you are the one that everyone wants to take their picture with. Everyone's asking for your autograph. And especially when you're, that farewell week, it's all about you. And so you're kind of the star of everything. But then the second that the crown goes on the next girl's head, nobody's rushing to hug you. Nobody's asking for your autograph. And it can definitely be a moment of like, oh my gosh, wait, who am I anymore? Like what do I do now? And I remember experiencing something similar to that when years ago, this weekend, actually, I think maybe tomorrow, this weekend is Miss Tennessee USA and Teen USA weekend. And when I was Miss Tennessee Teen USA 2019, I had a very similar experience where I was like, wait a second, what is going on? What is life? The day after I crowned my successor, because I was in just the hotel lobby and, I wasn't wearing the crown or sash or anything, but I think I had my title holder jacket on. So I kind of still was holding on to that last little bit of being the title holder. And the elevator opened and the two new title holders, Miss Tennessee Teen USA and USA, had just gotten off the elevator, but I hadn't seen them. And a little girl, she said, "Oh, Miss Tennessee USA." And I turned around, because I was so used to have, someone calling me Miss Tennessee Teen USA the whole year. So I kind of like turn around, fully ready to be about to take a picture with this little girl, but she's looking at the new title holder who just got off the elevator. And it was such a like harsh moment because, you get used to being called that title for the whole year. I mean, people even at my high school when I would walk down the hallway, they'd say, "Hey, Miss Tennessee Teen USA." It becomes your name for the year. And to see, to all of a sudden this name that you've really identified with and that has become a part of who you are for the year, then go to somebody else and to not nobody even knows anymore that you had the title. It seems that can really be a harsh moment for a lot of title holders that isn't always talked about. So that I love that you kind of that is a pivotal point for you and that's something you've really built this story off of because it's something that really isn't ever shared.
Yeah. It's not, it's a very taboo topic to talk
Mhm.
about what it feels like after the crown, because so much of the messaging in our industry is about winning, 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 winning,
Mhm.
right? And so like when you get to that place where you won the thing, it's like, okay, what's next? I just had this high. of
Yeah.
finally achieving the thing that I really wanted. And now I feel like it's no longer like a part of my identity. And,
Hmm.
like even outside of pageants, and I know that pageants get a bad rep outside of our industry. There's a lot of misunderstanding about the industry and the culture. But one thing that really brings women together, that is why I do what I do. And I believe so strongly that women should build a life that honors who they were created to be, who God designed them to be, is that for women, we are seasonal beings. We operate on cycles. Literally, our body has a cycle. And
Hmm.
so I've gotten to the place where I've realized that, I can cling too much to certain aspects of my personality, even with being an entrepreneur. Like I can cling too much to like what my business looks like right now, because my business and brand is going to grow and evolve with me. And that's a beautiful thing. And that's how it's supposed to be. And with everything that we're talking about today, I really hope that women will start to step into their power, which is owning, again, who they were designed to be, and not feeling like they have to always be equally productive, or that every season of their life has to reflect what their current identity is. That's just not realistic. And I'm not the same person I was 6 years ago when I competed as a Miss. I'm not the same woman I am now as a happily married woman of going on 4 years. And I won't be the same woman that I'm about to be when I have a child. It's
Hmm.
just part of life being a
Yeah.
woman.
I think also our purposes in different seasons can change and grow. Even when a lot of people ask me when I say that I'm a speaker and I'm pursuing a career in the speaking industry, they ask what I speak about. And I do definitely speak about things that are more targeted towards women in my age demographic and younger, because that's been my experience. But I know that that's going to grow and evolve as I get older, and that's okay because I'm 23. I only have the experiences of a 23-year-old. But when I'm 40, I'll have so much more experiences that I'll be able to tap into and talk about. And I'm sure that my brand as a speaker 20 years from now will be very different than what it looks like today. So I don't have to be so married to an identity that I might place on myself that isn't really the identity. It really is going to grow and change. And I think when it comes to titles, that the title really does only last for a year, and we can't put our identity in that because A, we don't control whether or not we even get the title, and B, it's not something that is lasting. It really is only for a year. And so you can't put the identity in that. Because then when that gets taken away from us, we have that moment of who am I anymore?
So you said it perfectly.
Yeah. So one of the things that you've talked about is how our greatest influence isn't found in performance, but in alignment with God's purpose. And I fully 10 out of 10, I love that. So how can a woman begin discerning what that purpose looks like in a particular season of her life?
Okay. So this is one of the topics that I could probably talk hours about, but we do not have that time. We have a short window for this podcast episode. So I'm
Hmm.
going to do my best to make this as simple as possible. The way that a woman gets clear and gets discernment about her purpose is, first and foremost, she prays. She goes to God about everything.
Hmm.
And I literally mean everything. That was something that I wish that I did a little bit more when I was a title holder, right? Because we get so excited about the opportunity that we lose sight of the fact that the reason why we even have that opportunity in the first place is because God put that as part of our journey, as part of our story. And
Hmm.
so give all credit to him and all glory to him, because that is who it is due to. It wasn't because of you or me or anybody that we were able to achieve the title that we did. It was because of the experiences that we had, that God, again, walked us through in our journey, that prepared us for that moment. So I would say pray is first and foremost the thing that every woman should do to get discernment. The second thing I would say is that, and this may sound contrary to conventional wisdom and a little controversial, but get really great at saying no. Be okay with saying no to opportunities that do not align with the woman that you are becoming. And the reason I say that is because saying no is our superpower, especially when we're stepping into our next season. You said that you are a speaker, right? I love that you said, I am a speaker, not that I'm becoming a speaker, right? I am a speaker. So because I am a speaker, you are a speaker, we're going to do what women who are speakers do with our time, with their time. You know, we're not going to spend our time doing something that somebody who wants to be established as a professional speaker would do, such as taking opportunities that maybe you want to step into more paid opportunities. So you're more selective about when you do something for free, right?
Hmm.
That's an example of setting boundaries, saying no, and that being a good thing, because not only does it help you towards that direction you're trying to go, becoming the woman you were meant to be, but it also helps you to teach people how to treat you. And so I would say that when it comes to women getting discernment around their purpose, you pray and you get comfortable with saying no.
Hmm. I love that. That's really great. And I think when it comes to the I am a speaker, because I am new to the industry and I have been paid to speak just a handful of times, but some people could probably, see my career so far and say, you can call yourself a speaker, really? But I do speak, and it's something that was really good advice that I got years ago that said when you're on the journey to becoming what you want to be, go ahead and start naming that already and start telling people that you are that. Because truthfully, I mean, with the speaker industry, if you don't tell people you're a speaker, how are they going to hire you to speak? They're not even going to know that you do it. And so same with being a title holder. If you don't tell people I am Miss whatever and or that I'm competing for Miss whatever, then that's going to close off a lot of opportunities that you could otherwise have. And so whatever you're wanting to have in the future, or whatever you're building for yourself, you can go ahead and start telling people that you're doing that. You don't have to have a, six-figure speaking business before you start saying that you're a speaker. There really isn't you know, a whatever that's called, like you know what I'm saying. There's not like some sort of a benchmark to to really identifying with something and to making that part of who you are and telling people that that's what you do. But remembering that your identity isn't found in that, and that it's just something that you're really gonna tell people about because it does open doors for you to really pursue your purpose through it. So yeah.
Absolutely. And what you're alluding to with everything you said is like you're not waiting for permission to own
Yes.
part of your identity.
Hmm.
And that's why I said that what you're doing with your podcast is so significant, because a big part of defining success is you say, I don't need permission to determine what success looks like. I can determine that for myself. And like I said earlier, like that's one of the reasons why I believe the gospel is so powerful, where it frames that belief as evidence of your faith and that it's the substance of things hoped for, because belief has to precede all things in order for you to like hope for it. And when it comes to, your identity and you want to be identified a certain way, you have to believe it first, because if you don't believe it, then nobody else is going to believe it either. And so
Hmm.
you have to have that personal conviction to say, yes, I believe that I am this and this is my purpose, so that
Hmm.
other people will get on board, because they're going to feel your conviction in your words and how you carry yourself. So I
Yeah.
love what you.
Thank you. And also, there were times when even I doubted that I could be a speaker. I've wanted to do it since I was 13. So it's been 10 years that I've known that this is the path that I wanted to take. But there were a lot of times when I had a lot of self-doubt in that and felt unqualified for it. And I remember having, conversations with myself and prayers with God and saying, how am I how am I qualified for this? Who's going to listen to me? Like, what do I know? But God always told me that that was what I was going to do. And He confirmed it in my life so many times that I would be a speaker and that that was His purpose for me. And that in whatever season of life that I'm in, that ultimately motivating people, inspiring people, and using my stories to really create impact is that's where I really that's what I thrive at. And so I know that I am meant to be a speaker because God's told me that. It's not just my own thoughts about it and my own, oh, that would be so fun. It's God really has confirmed in my life so many times that I am a speaker and that I will continue to pursue this and be successful at it. And if God is saying that, I'm not going to argue. So
That
that's
part.
really, yeah, my conviction in it is so strong because God said so.
Amen to that.
Yeah. One of the things that you do best is really helping women to create those brands. And one of the things that you've said is that you help women create brands that speak their name in rooms they haven't entered yet. And so, what is your advice on how women can create such lasting and impactful brands?
Well, before I can get to the advice, I think it's important for us to define what a brand is, because I know that this topic is one where there's so many different perspectives. I've heard a lot of things on the internet. And if I'm being real, I think that a lot of it's fluff, because what you usually hear people say about branding is it's a logo, it's a website, it's how you dress, it's, all these visual elements. And yes, that is part of it, especially when you talk about logos and colors and websites. That a big part of that is actually something called brand identity design, which is its own like subgroup of branding, right? But in order to be the person that people name when you're not even in the room, you need to define your brand as what people know you for or associate you with. And when you are known for something specific, when people associate you with that thing, it's only natural that if somebody comes into the room and they say, hey, I'm looking for this amazing keynote speaker for my event, that somebody who sees Bailey posting on her social media about all of the amazing things she's doing as a public speaker, it's only natural that they're going to say, oh, I know the perfect person to give a keynote at your event. Bailey Guy. She's that girl. She is going to deliver the best speech you have ever heard. And the people that are at your event, their minds are going to be blown, their lives are going to be changed, right? It's only natural that people will talk about you when they associate you with things. And I think it's also natural for human beings to create associations in our mind about other people. It's just how we make sense of the world. Like, I don't know if you've heard of where people say, like, in the first 3 seconds, people make an impression about you. It's true. And also, not only do people make impressions about you in the first 3 seconds, but every little detail you give them just by existing, it leads us to create stories in our mind about other people. So I'll give you an example. How many of us follow people on social media because we saw something that we liked that they were doing on their social media? That's literally everybody, right? We all follow people because we see something that we like. So if I see an influencer and, let's say I'm into, I don't know, crunchy diet culture, and I see that she posts a photo of her avocado toast and she eats that in the morning. If I eat avocado toast in the morning, I'll be like, oh, she also eats avocado toast? Oh my gosh. That's somebody who I relate to, I connect with. And you start creating this story in your mind about this person. That's why we say that with people who we connect with online, there's like this parasocial relationship that we develop the more we have insight into their personal life. Mm-hmm. But what's really cool about this whole idea of associations, especially in this modern day, and again, I'm going to try my best not to make this a 3-hour podcast episode because I can talk all day about this. But in this modern day, the creator economy has changed every industry. You could be an average person doing literally anything. As long as you got a message, a camera, and you're willing to get on the internet and you're willing to build an audience around the thing you want to talk about, you can build a brand. Which is why I say that all of us have brands, whether we realize it or not. Mm-hmm. People associate us with things that they see us doing, and they know us for something that they see us doing, right? And so the amazing thing about the creator economy being on the rise is it gives women, especially women in pageants, the green light to literally build a brand themselves. Like the days of needing to go through a third party to be able to have a brand, to be able to get into rooms, those days are gone, long gone. Like women are coming to pageant systems having already established brands, mm-hmm. large followings, people who they've worked with, who know them and they do projects with. Like this is only possible in this current era that we live in because of the creator economy. And so I would just say that the power is in associations, and the amazing thing because of the creator economy and the internet is that we can create any kind of association that we want. We're in control of that. So
Mhm.
that's what I would say as far as, women stepping into their power and building a brand that really represents who they're becoming in the process.
I like that you say that everyone has a brand, and I think that's so true. Everyone has a brand, whether you know it or not. And because you're known for things. Even within your family, you might be known for something, or within your friend group, you might be like the mom of the group. And maybe if a lot of people see you like that, and that's the personality that you portray, and that's how you present yourself, then that's going to be an element of your brand that you might not even notice. So I think that's so smart to really think about how you're going to have a brand regardless. So you might as well take control of that and be putting out and presenting the way that you want your brand to reflect because you will have one regardless.
1,000%. You have a brand, whether you realize it or not. And the sooner that you accept that, the easier it is to build one. Because I
Yeah.
think that a lot of people, they get intimidated by the word brand because
Yeah.
said prior to the rise of social media, we associated brands with companies like Nike,
Mhm.
Walmart, large corporate companies prior to social media were brands. Now the term brand has been redefined because literally anybody could have one as long as they have a following of people who believe and support what they're saying and they're doing. You can have any kind of brand that you want. It's
Mhm.
totally in your control.
So what would you say is one thing that you would never do again in your branding journey?
Oh, it's funny you asked me this question because I literally just posted on my social media about my journey through pageants and how it led me to what I do now. So the thing that I would never do again is I would never allow myself to think that I have to be ready to do something. Like I spent so much time trying to earn my way into being able to do what it is that I felt called to do. And that's why I'm such a big proponent on the whole becoming thing and like owning that right now and that being right now being the perfect time to do that because I spent years like worrying about my aesthetic on social media, years worrying about like, oh, I haven't done this type of opportunity yet, so I'm not qualified enough to do this next opportunity. And oh, I'm going to do dances on TikTok and do all these trends because that's going to be the way that I grow my social media following. That's going to be the way that people listen to me. Like I spent so much time focusing on vanity metrics, focusing on like all the things that I perceived partially due to my experience in pageantry to be what gives me credibility, not realizing that the answer was always there from the beginning. All I needed to do was just own who I am, own my story, own my message. And the sooner I did that, before I knew it, I started attracting other people who saw me as that and connected with me because they were associated me with something specific.
Mhm. One of my favorite quotes is don't wait until you're ready, just start. Because when you think about it, are we ever really fully ready for the things that we're doing,
No.
especially when we're doing something for the first time? Just start because you're going to learn, you're going to grow. And even if you think that you're really ready, you might go into something and be like, oops, I actually there have a lot more growing to do, but it's okay because I'm already in it. So I'm going to grow and figure it out way faster than if I was, staying out of it until I felt like I was ready. So I love that you talk about that. Okay, so one of the things that you've also mentioned in your content is the brand ambassador myth. So I'd love to hear more about that because that is definitely something that a lot of pageant systems use or throw around of the phrase of being a brand ambassador. And so what exactly do you feel that what you're referring to with the brand ambassador myth? Talk more about that.
Well, what I'm referring to is the reality that for a lot of organizations, the role of their title holder, it varies. And so with every organization that you encounter based off of their brand and how they want to be represented, they're going to require certain things of their title holders. And in the industry, we talk a lot about title holders being brand ambassadors. And when I think of a brand ambassador, I just simply think of somebody who they promote another brand and they happen to be in this other brand's content and be promoted back by that brand that they support, almost like an influencer.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I have an issue with this title of brand ambassador is because it's not an accurate depiction of what I think a lot of title holders actually do. Now, if you think about it, title holders, again, I might upset some people in your audience when I say this, but title holders have a lot of different responsibilities. They're creating content, so they're spending a lot of time marketing. They're speaking at events, so they take on the role of speakers. They host events, so they now are in the role of host. They might do stuff on the back end to support the organization during pageant weekend, and they might go in all these places and travel far distances to be able to support their organization and their partners. They might
Fundraising and recruitment, those are some things.
recruitment and sponsorship. You got to promote other people's products. I just saw there was a lot of things going on with the Miss Grand International pageant, but one of the title holders that recently resigned, she had said, oh, they're making me sell chili flakes and chili paste, and like that was something that was a part of her role as a title holder. And when you think about it, these are all things that if it were not for us being in the pageant world, you would be getting paid for. You would have way more like of a important role within the organization because you do all these different things. Title holders have a wide range of skills that they acquire from being a title holder because there's so much that's expected of you. And I made a video recently on my YouTube channel about how there is hidden risk behind pageant title holder contracts. And this adds to the reason why I don't like the term brand ambassador, because when you read contracts for a lot of title holders, in addition to the expectations just from all the things that organizations say in their marketing, there's also the expectations that most people don't know about because it's in the fine print of the contract. And with the contract, it's set in stone. If the title holder signs it, unless it's no longer legally enforceable, whatever it says that the title holder has to do, that's what she has to do. And so part of the reason why I don't like the term brand ambassador is because I just think that it's a very fluffy way to describe what title holders do. I think that a lot of women in pageants, they have gained skill sets that, like I said, because of the creator economy, there is so much potential for what they can accomplish outside of pageants. And I think that if we as an industry truly care about the women that do represent these organizations and they do represent these titles, that we will do the work necessary, not only to accurately name what it is that they do, but to more accurately determine what should be their return for all that they do. And I know, again, that would be controversial to some people because they say, well, being a title holder, it's part of service. Well, as a service provider who has a business, I get paid for my services, right? There's nothing wrong with getting paid to do a service. So we shouldn't downplay the significance of the role that title holders have and how important it is for us to support them in those endeavors and whatever their future goals look like. Because I'm a firm believer that the industry is going to evolve because of the changing times. And part of the industry's evolution is embracing the fact that what makes the industry so great is the quality of women that they attract. When you attract women who are leaders, who are gifted, who are highly skilled, that adds value to your organization. But for the purposes of this episode, I'm speaking directly to your audience, because I'm no longer just talking about organizations, I'm talking to your audience specifically. If you're listening to this podcast episode and you are a title holder and you have all of these amazing things that you do, focus on building a brand around that and focus on doing what I said earlier, which is being very intentional about what you do and what you say yes to. Because the more intentional you are with your reign, the better your results will be at the end of it.
Hmm. And also take opportunities in being a title holder to create something that's going to last beyond the title. And that's something that when um, anytime that I have a title, I try to also, okay, wait, let me start over. First of all, my that was a lot of words that didn't mean anything. My CSI about goal setting, and it's called GPS, goals plus preparation equals success. I know that when I'm serving with that CSI and I have such a passion for it, and really even this podcast is connected to it, that that's also building it's not only creating an impact and I'm able to bring inspiration and motivation to people, but it also is directly going into my brand as a speaker. And so it's very multi-beneficial for a lot of different purposes. It promotes an organization, but it also makes an impact while also building my own personal brand. So I would also encourage women to really think about that time that you're spending as a title holder and how you can use your title and the opportunities that come from being a pageant contestant and title holder to then also create your own brand, and that's going to lead you to your personal and professional goals outside of the pageant industry.
Absolutely. You nailed it. Just be so intentional about everything that you do. And like I said, for my women in the audience that are listening to this, that are believers and followers of Christ, put God first in everything that you do because He will give you discernment and to help you know when an opportunity is right for you and when it's not. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it's not a great opportunity. It just may not be for you, or it may not be the right time. Maybe there's something else that he's trying to do in your life and through you to help prepare you for what's next. But as we both know, his plans are greater than our own. And
Mhm.
anything that he has planned for you, I can promise you, is going to exceed anything that you may be wanting in this present moment.
I also think that a lot of times God can use, well, he always can use a pageant without it being the title. And so
Mm-hmm.
contestants can go into a pageant and feel really called to participate in that pageant, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're called to have the title. But it could be that God is working through that experience and through the journey of competing and the preparation. I feel like so much of the benefit of pageantry is actually in the preparation. And that's why preparation is even such a big word in my CSI of GPS, goals plus preparation equals success. It's not just the win, the preparation is such an important part, and that God can really use that preparation. And I feel like there's been so many pageants that I've done that I really felt God calling me to do, but He wasn't calling me to do it so that I could win. He was calling me to do it so that I could go through the experience and get and grow in certain areas, or lean on Him and grow my faith in certain ways through the experience. And really preparing in that preparation for the pageant is where my win was found. My win wasn't found in the title, it was found in the preparation. And I think that's something that a lot of women, if they really release that the grip that we have on the crown and the title, that we actually can experience a lot more benefits of pageantry just in the growth in the process.
Yes, yes. Like there's so much that comes out of going through the process and embracing the process. And like I said, when I was going through the transition from title holder to business owner to CEO, like it was not always comfortable. Like I had to get out of a whole lot of different ways of doing and thinking. And again, I knew I was going to become a woman who not only ran a business but was able to help women through my mission to be able to build the legacy that God is calling them to build.
Mhm.
And for me to be able to step into that role as a leader, I have to go through my own growth so that I can be equipped to be able to lead women to what their next level of success looks like.
Mhm.
So part of what you experience as a title holder, regardless of you win or not, it's helping to prepare you for the people that you're going to lead one day.
Mhm. I love that. So what advice would you give to title holders who are transitioning out of pageantry and into a new season of life?
So when you're transitioning out of pageantry, first thing that I would just say is take a moment to reflect. Like, and it goes back to just what I was saying earlier about like as women, God's designed us to be seasonal creatures. We operate on rhythms and cycles, and it's because of who we are that we don't have to be anything but that. And so as a woman, there are times where I have to catch myself. Like whenever, I go from one thing to the next thing and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, this week was super productive. I got to make sure that next week is just as productive as the previous week. Like I have to stop myself and say, oh, wait, actually, I need time to rest. And this is a whole nother thing. I don't know if you've ever heard of cycle syncing before.
Mm-mm.
But it's basically where you align your activities with your cycle. So like during
I've
your
heard of
PTO phase,
workout cycling, and there's certain, like yoga is better for some season of the cycle, and then yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So like that is something that I've recently gotten really into because not just with pageants, but like coming from the corporate world where I was so used to having to just push through, like when my body was going through a season and a cycle, like being an entrepreneur, I had to unlearn that because as an entrepreneur, I'm in control of my schedule. I don't have to push through anything, right? But it's that mentality that I've had from, my whole life being around performance. I'm a former athlete. I did pageants. Like performance is part of my identity. And I realized that like in some ways that was working against me because rather than me doing what God calls us to do, which is rest and to treat my body as a temple and give my body what it needs and give my mind what it needs to recover after I've just done something that was, intense. I was thinking, okay, what's the next thing I got to do? And I got to crush this next goal. And I know that with defining success, like we talk about goal setting. I think you even said it earlier, just like how important it is not to set goals that are external and have nothing to do with what you can control. Like when you set goals that are based off of things that are outside of your control, it only sets you up for disappointment. And again, as an entrepreneur, I had to go through the growing pains of unlearning that and realizing that it's okay for me to take some time to reflect before I jump to the next thing and set that next goal. It's okay for me to take a pause because that's going to happen in my life anyway. Like I always think about, okay, what kind of business do I want to have that prepares me for the day when I'm a mom? I think about that a lot to the point where I'm like, okay, if I would not do this during that season of my life, I probably shouldn't be doing it right now. I'm always thinking about the woman that I'm becoming whenever I'm doing something, even in my business. And that leads to the decisions and being more intentional. So if you're a woman in pageants, the first thing you should be doing before you transition to your next thing is take some time to reflect, whatever that looks like, whether that's, again, prayer time, journaling, or even, women who come to me when they're at that point. If you want to talk to somebody who you see as a guide and a mentor, and you want to invest in that professional help to help you get that clarity, which is why I love what I do. I help women to get that roadmap to what their next thing is. Like that's also part of preparing and resting and being able to put yourself in the right headspace mentally, emotionally, and physically so that you can be prepared for that next level of success for you.
Yeah. Hi, friend. If you enjoyed this episode, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast for more motivation. And if you have a suggestion for what you want to hear about next, please reach out to me on Instagram at BaileyGGuy. Connect with me there and let me know what you want to see next on Define Success.